So before we start, you should see a poll will come up, and I just want to get an idea from you, the audience. Are you currently operating a business, or are you interested in starting a business? So let's get an idea of who's in the room. Give you a few minutes. So it seems that almost half of you all are currently in a business, and quite a few of you all are thinking about starting a business. Almost, I guess, all the people who do not own a business are currently thinking about starting a business. So I hope after today's session, you are encouraged to attend some of our ideation sessions, where we can help you to come up with some innovative ideas to improve your business if you currently have a business. And if you wish to start a business, hopefully you can attend the ideation sessions and get some ideas in terms of how you can provide an innovative product or service to your potential customers. So we're going to talk a lot about innovation today. And what I want for us firstly is to define what is innovation. And at Cariri, we talk about innovation being creativity being implemented. And what do we mean by then the word creativity? So Britannica.com has a definition that aligns itself with what we consider as creativity, which is the ability to make or otherwise bring into existence something new, whether it's a new solution to a problem, a new method, a new device, or a new artistic object or form. So I'm hoping that from that definition, you can see that an innovation can be a new product, a new service, a new method, a new way of doing something, or a product that is existing but adapted in a new way. And why is innovation important? Innovation is very important for our national economy because it's a main driver for economic diversification, which our country must urgently and seriously address given the projected uncertainty in the energy sector over the medium to long term. And at Cariri, we are very much focused our efforts in terms of innovation through activities developing appropriate infrastructure to promote innovation. And a lot of these activities are at our Center for Enterprise Development in Freeport. And I hope that some of you have already visited our Center for Enterprise Development. And if you haven't, I encourage you to attend our sessions when we have them, so you can be part of the innovation process that we are trying to transform Trinidad and Tobago. So I want to ask some of you in the chat, why do you think it's important for innovation, especially as an entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur? Why do you think that that's important? So you could type something quickly.
Competitive advantage.
Very nice. Thank you. That's very good.
Because the market is constantly changing.
Yes, absolutely. Remaining relevant. Absolutely. Changing world, Ali. Thanks. Yeah. So definitely we want to be part We have to be part of that innovation process because, and we can see that it helps you to discover ways to grow your business, especially during difficult times. And even in Tobago, we could have seen that happen during the pandemic, where a lot of businesses discovered ways of how to improve and grow their businesses during that time. You can find new efficiencies, new ways to be better than your competitors, new opportunities, new products, new services that you could offer. You may be able to utilize technology in a different way. And really the key to it is solving old problems in new ways. So some of the new products and services that we are seeing on the market are really solving old problems that our customers had in the past. But now with technology, a greater understanding of our customer, we are able to bring new things to the market. So innovation is really about solving problems of our customers. So at Cariri, one of the things that we consider a way of helping with fostering innovation is by hosting ideation sessions. And what is ideation? Ideation is really the process of generating ideas that can deliver value to a customer. And I want to focus very much on those two phrases I've underlined, generating ideas and delivering value. Because a lot of times when we come up with an idea, we tend to become attached to that idea. And we believe that, this idea is really great. And a lot of times, if we allow ourselves to postpone that attachment, we can come up with something even better. So the ideation process is really about coming up with a lot of ideas so you can be able to choose which is the best idea. And the other part of it is that the ideas that you generate are all focused on how you deliver value to your customer. So it's not just generating an idea or coming up with a new product for the sake of coming up with a new product. It really must solve a problem and deliver value to the customer. So you may be asking yourself, why learn about ideation? You've been doing this perhaps all your life. Since you were a child, you've been coming up with ideas. So why come to an ideation session? What would that really teach you? And the thing about the ideation process that we're teaching you, it really focuses your mind in terms of solving a problem for your customer. And we encourage you to go beyond the obvious. So we are sometimes not aware that we draw boundaries in terms of what we allow ourselves to imagine. So really in the ideation process, what we're doing is trying to get you to go beyond those boundaries, to imagine more than what you might now think is possible. And it really looks at helping you to remove bias that you may have, that you may not even be aware that you have. So we're really looking at how you can come up with the best solution for a problem. And the ideation process really involves 3 stages. The first stage would be discovering, finding problems that affect not only yourself, but other people as well. Once you found that problem, the next part of it is understanding that problem. Learn and understand how that problem is affecting other people. Once you've understood the problem, the next part of it would be to build and test. Design a solution, build a prototype, and find out what other people think before you design the final product. So once you come up with a final product or service or solution, it will be something that your customers would want. So I just want to give you a little more details on some of the things that we've done with our ideation sessions. So some of our ideation sessions maybe industry specific. So for example, we did an ideation session for the food and beverage sector. So looking at problems in that specific sector. We have also done for community specific ideation sessions. So for example, we've done an ideation session for the San Grande Regional Corporation. We can also do ideation sessions for specific target groups. So we've done ideation sessions for the youth in Trinidad and Tobago. And we can also do ideation sessions for companies. So we've actually sat down with the sales team of a specific company in Trinidad, and we've done an ideation session to come up with ideas on how they can improve sales. So as you can see, there are lots of ways in which ideation sessions can work for you as an individual or even as a company. And we've also done ideation sessions which are open to the public, that are general, where people of varied interests have attended, and you'd be surprised at what ideas really do come out at the end of these sessions. Our ideation sessions are very practical, so if you do attend one of them, be prepared to solve a problem, come up with a solution. It may not be the solution that you would use later on, but you would have definitely had hands-on experience that you can take with you to solve any other problem in your own business later on. Our sessions can be either virtual or in person, and they typically last for a period of 3 to 5 hours. So you may be asking, what are the requirements? What it is I need to be able to do to attend one of these ideation sessions? So we really look for an open mindset. People who are open to trying new things, looking at things in a new way, willing to come out of your comfort zone. And one of the other things we're looking for is a bit of a willingness to fail. It's okay. It's a safe space to come up with an idea that may not really be able to work, but it is all about pushing yourself and the boundaries of what you imagine in a new direction. We want you to be committed to the process and really actively participate. So I hope that you recognize that my requirements or requirements for you to attend an ideation session do not involve any particular interest, experience, educational level. It's all about your attitude and willingness to be creative. So ideation sessions really help you build essential skills. And I'm telling you, even if at this point in time you are considering just being an employee and you don't want to own your own business, as even an employee, you need to be able to be innovative, solve problems in new ways, help your employer. So innovation is becoming an essential skill. So if you attend ideation sessions, it'll help you build those essential skills. If you're one of those people who have a lot of ideas and you can't figure out which direction to go in, at the end of the ideation session, you will have some direction as to where to go next. If you're one of those people who might have a problem and you can't come up with a solution, after the ideation session, it'll bring you that much closer to that solution. And if you're one of those people who maybe at this point feeling a bit challenged by our environment, difficulties of supply chain, foreign exchange, and other issues, and you feel like you need to be inspired, or your staff needs to be inspired, or your team needs to be inspired after an ideation session, and you realize that there are lots of creative things that you can do, it will definitely inspire you. And it's also an opportunity for networking. So you will find at these ideation sessions people who are similar and like-minded like yourself. You may find people who have skills that you are interested in perhaps tapping into. So I hope I've encouraged you in some way to attend our next ideation session. And what happens after the ideation session? So you have this great idea, what happens next? So we encourage you to apply to our Cariri Idea Advisory Service, and my colleagues who will be presenting after will give you a lot more details on what they offer in terms of how they take that idea and help you to commercialize it or take it to the market. And two of the opportunities that exist once your idea is ready for market. One is that you can license that idea, or you can go the route of entrepreneurship. If you want to start on that entrepreneurial journey, you may be asking yourself, what do customers want? Is there an opportunity or a space in that market? And can I supply what consumers want? So I want to share with you, in 2021, KPMG, they're an auditing firm, looked at some emerging consumer trends after the pandemic had hit. And I'll share the video and we can have a little discussion on perhaps what you think about some of their findings as to what consumer trends are. Are you hearing the video?
Yes, we are.
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are here.
Globally, a different consumer has emerged with new behaviors. In our latest thought leadership, responding to consumer trends in the new reality, we see 4 key trends because of COVID-19. Listen to the views of my colleagues around the world.
Organizations must quickly understand the economic impact of COVID-19 on their consumer base to identify risk and capture opportunities. Life in China has gradually returned to normal since March 2020. Considering the strong consumer trust and higher penetration of e-commerce, the China market now plays an even more important role to drive business growth for international brands.
Consumer trust in brands and sectors has declined over the months of the COVID-19 situation. Net trust in both grocery and non-grocery retail has declined since the months of May and June. Consumers have high expectations for brands to reflect the values that they hold for themselves.
The future will be called consumer commerce. Bricks and mortar will remain an important channel, although we know channel agnostic and customer centric is key, and the competition will be much broader than just retail. There will be multiple types of businesses who do not have a legacy in physical stores, hoping to distribute products and services directly to the consumer, wherever they may be.
We can see from the data that 37% of consumers are working from home more than they were before the pandemic. That means the home has now also become the workplace. So there's a chance for consumer businesses to tap into that and think about what products do individuals need if the home is serving both purposes. Alongside a greater focus on local suppliers, not travelling such long distances, consumer businesses also need to think about the role of the community and how they become part of that as consumers have that more local and societal preference.
Consumers clearly have changed their purchasing patterns and behaviors. Through this disruption, there will be innovation, and businesses that will address these trends quickly will be successful in the longer term.
Okay, so based on that video, we can see some key points. E-commerce is really gaining importance. So if you want to start a business, or if you currently operate in a business, e-commerce is part of it that you need to seriously consider if you don't already have that. Products and services should reflect the high values of its consumers. So if your customer is environmentally conscious, there are parts in your business that should reflect some environmentally aware aspects to the business. Consumers are looking for multiple channels for delivery. So no longer that we can just have a physical store, but you may need to offer not just physical stores, you have to offer delivery, you must be online, you must have a social media presence as well as the traditional forms of communication, face-to-face, WhatsApp. All of these are things that are becoming more and more important. An interesting one is products and services for being at home. So now, even though some of us have gone back to work, we still have people who are working from home. There's still students who are studying from home. And how are there products and services that we could be offering, because the home has now become more than just a place where we return to after work. It has become more than that. So what are the things that you could think of that you can offer that isn't currently being offered that could help help your normal consumers, local suppliers, and how do we help our communities? And it's interesting that there are times when we talk to entrepreneurs and they are helping communities, they are using local suppliers, and they are not letting their customers know that. And customers are very much interested, especially now they're very sensitized to helping their own. So how do you incorporate that and make sure that it is part of a selling point for your business? So I want to thank you so much for listening to me. And hopefully that little, my presentation has encouraged you in some way to join us for a Cariri ideation session. Contact us at the Idea Advisory Service. You can email us at ias@cariri.com or give us a call, give us your contact information so we'll know that you're interested in attending an ideation session. And we'll definitely invite you when our next ideation session will be on. So thank you so much. And I hand you back over to Tamara.
One question, I'd just like to ask a question, please.
Sure.
What's the cost of attending one of these ideation sessions?
So at this point in time, it's at an unbelievable offer of no cost.
Oh, that's great.
Yes, absolutely. So definitely take the opportunity.
I'll make sure and email my information.
All right, great. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Karen, for that insightful presentation on ideation. I would just like to take the opportunity to remind the audience that you can pose your questions in the chat. And we are going to have a question and answer segment at the end of today's webinar where you'll be able to ask your questions. But please feel free to put any question that you have in the chat at this time. So I am now going to welcome our second speaker, and I will introduce you to Ms. Aura Watson-Bereau, who will take you through Cariri's Idea Advisory Services, the transformation process from idea to market. Ms. Bereau has over 25 years of solid professional experience canvassing private sector financial organizations, dynamic retail environments, government, and the public sector. Throughout her career, she has acquired a multitude of skills and training, including customer relationship management, product and market analysis, procurement, and negotiation. She is the Senior Business Development Coordinator in the Business Incubation Unit at Kriel and a member of the Professional Business Innovation and Entrepreneurial Team with responsibilities for the Idea Advisory Service and Business Hatchery programs. I now welcome to present to you Ms. Watson-Bereau.
Thank you so much, Tamara, for that introduction. And thank you, Karen, for giving us a great start to this afternoon's webinar. Before I get into my presentation, I'd like to get a little feedback from my virtual audience. So I'd like the first poll to be presented on the screen to get some feedback. So yes, Karen started us off. We're in the middle of the presentations, yes, but I'd still like to get a little feedback on my audience. Describe your mood today. I know we've been having some weather that's been affecting persons, but let's hear your mood today, just to keep it nice and light. Give it a few more seconds to see if I get some more responses. Okay. Few more responses because I know I have a few more people in the room, in the virtual room. All right, I'll stop here. So I'm seeing that right now, most of my people are all nice and sunshiny. For the most part, there are a few cloudy people, yes. I'm not too sure if that's being affected by the weather, but I'd like to think as well that Karen has put you in a good disposition, that you're having a really nice sunshiny outlook on stuff in the entrepreneurship world. So secondly, I have another poll. Why did you join today's session? And I'm seeing for most persons who responded, most of y'all, it's all about the knowledge building, which is fantastic, and the networking. Not as many, only 33% funding, and thankfully nobody, it was a case of my boss made me join. So this is great, this is great. So I am going to now start my presentation. So give me a few minutes. Let me share my screen. Okay, so is everybody seeing my screen?
Yes, Miss.
It's up again.
Okay, so thank you so much. So I am going to chat today with you about Cariri's Idea Advisory Service, and specifically we look at it as the transformation process from idea to market. So myself and my colleague Sadira Nagessar will take you through the process, this particular program that's available at Cariri, and how it is you can participate in it and how it is it can be of benefit to you. So a little background. When was the Idea Advisory Service program established at Cariri? It was established in 2015, soon after we created our Center for Enterprise Development, which is our third location, our most recent location of Cariri's offices, and that is located in Freeport. And why was that done? It was established because we felt that although we have a high level of creativity and talent among the population, many potentially great ideas are not commercialized. Persons have lots of ideas, especially as entrepreneurs, which most of you seem to be. You tend to have things popping up in your brain all the time, but sometimes it really doesn't get anywhere past the brain and become something tangible, the reality as we call it. So this is a project, a program that has been developed in an effort to help bring those ideas closer to commercialization. And how is this done? The Idea Advisory Service, IAS as I refer to it, was adapted from a service provided by the Danish Technological Institute, and Cariri and the DTI are both members of WAITRO, which is the World Association of Industrial and Technological Research Organizations. And by virtue of us being both participants and members of that group, we leverage this relationship to form the IAS. Now, the DTI has been running a successful service called the IDEA, or should I say the Inventor Advisory Service, for well over 43 years. So we figured they were well poised, having had that experience, to be able to share with us and provide good learnings as to how this could be done. And so we developed and we brought together a multidisciplinary team from Cariri, and they were trained by the DTI to execute this service. But more specifically, Cariri tailored our project to tailor or to suit the needs of our local populace. So what exactly is the IAS? The IAS is a program that's designed to assist individuals and firms in taking innovative ideas to commercialization. Karen, in her introduction, spoke a lot about the ideation sessions and the ideation workshops and the opportunity of creating innovative ideas. And so this is a good continuum. You see well how this can continue, having probably been exposed to one of the ideation sessions. You now can use some of those ideas developed in those ideation sessions and now possibly apply into our IAS program so that we could get it to reality as we see. And it helps, what it does, it helps to eliminate, as we say, the disconnect between the idea that you might have thought about, what the market wants, and it's really key if you want to get into commercialization or for an idea to be successful in the commercial realm, you need to find out what the market really wants, you know, as it relates to that idea and how that idea is going to be evaluated by that said market. And this is done by working with the innovator, you, or the ideator, we sometimes call you, to assess the facts and assumptions surrounding the idea, all about what it is you were thinking about surrounding that idea, and moving it towards proof of business, all right? And once proof of business is established, there are the two pathways to commercialization that Karen would have shared, and we call them also the business startup or commercialization or licensing. So how is the IAS project structured? So we started off, Cariri since 2015 had the IAS program, and in 2018 we actually developed an IAS project when we entered into a collaboration agreement with the Inter-American Development Bank, the IDB, to execute a 3-year project entitled Bridging the Gap to the Commercial Application of Innovation. A bit of a mouthful, but it really speaks to exactly what it is we were talking about, of trying to, you know, get these innovative ideas and move these ideas from just being in one's head into the commercialization realm. And this project was designed to assist individuals and small and micro enterprises to commercialize their ideas and provide support for those persons, as well as capacity building for the IAS project in and of itself. The project has 2 phases. Phase 1 is what we call the core program. And the core program is all about working towards validating the idea that you may have. And in that process, the core program, there are 4 main areas that all applicants and participants explore and need to achieve or tick off their list in an effort to go on to the next stage. First and foremost is you need to develop a value proposition, your value proposition statement. And any business, any commercial enterprise really should not go forward if the ideator, the entrepreneur, is not aware of what the value proposition of that business is. And that value proposition really determines the benefits of the idea and the problem it solves in a really simple way. Secondly, there is need to develop prototyping and costing. And I say prototyping, prototype, yes, as opposed, I'm sure many of you all are familiar with the term prototype. Prototype is a little bit different. It's not a typo. Prototype, in all intents and purposes, is a replica of your final design. But in this case, the prototype, since you are now starting your journey, the prototype is really a scaled down model of the product to enable demonstration, what we call a minimum demonstration unit, so that one can have a general idea of exactly what it is you're thinking about with regards to this idea. And associated with the prototype, one must also develop costings for that so that your would-be consumer has a gauge, or you yourself have an idea as to what the pricing of this particular idea is going to cost. And then thirdly, there's intellectual property consideration. This is where there's an IP assessment and options for protecting IPR. This IP consideration takes the form of us coordinating a one-on-one confidential session with you and members of the Intellectual Property Office. And we have a partnership with the Intellectual Property Office where we have IP clinics once a month, or the first Thursday of every month, that's available to persons free of charge. And so this particular session is where you are able to talk to that IP officer and explore all the possibilities you have for this particular idea that you may have. It's confidential. We are not a part of it, meaning Cariri, so you can feel free to explore whatever conversations or issues you may have as it relates to the possibility of protection of your intellectual property. And fourthly, key part of it is the market validation. This is where you really get the real feedback from your potential customers as to whether or not you should go ahead with what it is you're thinking about. And that market validation can be done in a number of ways. It could be as simple as questionnaires, surveys, focus groups, stakeholder engagement, or even, actually getting pre-orders. That would be evidence of successful market validation for us. All right. So at this point, I want to give you an idea, because we have this project and we have clients in it, and I wanted to give you an idea of what has been some of the feedback of some of the clients that we have in phase one. So this is from a particular client that we have. His name is Rajiv Singh. He's the owner of Ink Reaper, a Faded Avenue studio, as well as he's an entrepreneur in other areas. And he actually developed aftercare products for persons who do tattooing. And actually, when he came to us, he had only tested it, or he had sampled it with just a few, but by going through our project, he was able to say this. The core program was pivotal as the value proposition helped me to identify the unique selling point, allowing me to properly pitch my business and explain the product confidently and more thoroughly to the customer. So actually, when he first started, he was thinking it was only going to be a product for the tattoo stations or the tattoo shops, but actually it's been so successful that he's gone past just the tattoo shops, and the actual tattoo clients, persons who've gotten tattoos themselves, are actually reaching out to him and purchasing the product as well. So he's even getting more success and wider reach for his particular product. Another client we have is a Mr. Coburn, who has an apiary, and his product, he started off, it was purely a hobby at the start, and then he was encouraged, having, actually been a client of our food technology unit. He was encouraged to join the IAS program. And his feedback on it was that I am very grateful for my experience with Cariri. My hobby, as I said, he started off with a hobby, turned small business, has gone through different levels of growth and recognition. The intellectual property and costing aspects of the program were especially beneficial. So just a little bit of feedback as to how it is persons have been going in the project, the phase one part of the project, and what they have gathered or what they've gained out of the project. At this point in time, I would like to hand you over to my colleague, Sadira Nagessar, who will take you on through the next phase of the project. Sadira?
Thank you, Aura. Is everybody hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we do.
All right, fantastic. So I will be going through two programs that we also have at Cariri. The first is the IDEATION program phase 2, as well as the IAS Scale-up Programme. So Aura would have mentioned a lot about validating your idea. And I saw some questions in the chat, how do you do that and so on. Now, what happens after that? So you've gone out into the market, you've spoken to the customers, they all love your product and they want it. What is the next step? The next step is really for you to start selling your product, get it out into the market, earn some revenue. And Karen would have also mentioned there are two ways to do this. So our IAS Phase 2 program to clients towards that commercialization of the idea. And that can be done through a business startup and also by licensing. So we are all familiar what a business startup is. Many of us might already be in a business or thinking about starting a business. And this is for participants who are interested in starting their own business. And we all know businesses, they would create a product, promote it and sell it themselves. They take on a lot of the risk themselves. And all the rewards are also gained by that owner or owners of the business. They assume the risk and they reap the rewards. Now, another form of, or another business model is a licensing model. And this is quite different from a startup. And in this form, you don't actually start a business. You don't create the product yourself. You don't promote it. You don't do any of those things. Instead, you partner with an existing company who is, of course, they must be interested in having your product to be a part of their portfolio. They must see some value in the intellectual property of your product. You partner with them and they will take on that risk and assume that responsibility to market, to create, to produce the product. And so, because you have allowed them to do that, they will pay you a percentage of every sale that is earned on that particular product, or maybe it's an innovation, or maybe it's some sort of technology. They give you a portion of the sale, and that is called a royalty payment. Next slide, please, Aura. Right, so WIPO, which is the World Intellectual Property Organization, they have defined licensing as an agreement, as I mentioned, or a partnership between an intellectual property rights owner, who is called the licensor. So that is the person with the idea, and another who is authorized to use such rights, or the licensee. So that would be the person who has the company and has the resources. And in exchange, you are paid of an agreed amount or a royalty or fee. Next slide, please. So what is our role at Cariri in licensing? So we have been working with maybe a couple of clients to pursue licensing. And I will share in the next slides an example of those clients and how we would have helped them to really get a licensing agreement. So our role is really one of support. We support the search for partners, and not just any partners, it has to be the appropriate partner, and companies within our network, as well as persons outside of our network, in order to bring whatever innovative product or technology or process to the market and, of course, to the larger society. Now, if we do find a suitable partner, we would assist in engaging with that partner. We would initiate conversation and discussion with that partner with the ultimate aim of signing a license agreement. Next slide. Right, so I mentioned I'll be sharing an example, and this lady in the middle, her name is Rhona Jack. She is one of our clients who was able to successfully get a licensing agreement. I don't know if many of you would have heard about her story, but it is a very inspirational story. She is a seamstress by trade and profession, and she is from Tobago. And she created a very simple but very impactful invention. It's called a Udazzle fashion ruler, and that's it displayed in the photo. Now, the ruler is one that combines several rulers. I don't know if you all are familiar with the garment industry, but there are a different number of rulers used to cut the fabrics and so on. It's the L square, French curve, and hip curve rulers. And she was able to combine those rulers into one system that can collapse on to each other. So it's so much easier to transport. It's so much more convenient to store as well. And we would have worked with her to contact and engage a company out in Denmark. It's called Struve, and they are a family-owned business, and they would have expressed an interest in putting this ruler out into the market and would have started working with Rhona in building that relationship to get this ruler out there. So next slide, please, Aura. So this is just a short video of the owner of that company in Denmark. We would have recently had a launch of the product at Cariri, and the entire video is available on our Facebook page. And I invite you guys to go onto Cariri's Facebook page and view the video, view the entire video to learn about her experience. So Aura, if you can just play the video to learn about the journey.
No audio.
Or I believe you might have to put your mic on.
Are y'all hearing now? Are y'all hearing now?
Yeah.
Yes.
When I saw the ruler first time on a drawing from the Danish Textile Institute, I was excited because immediately I could see that this is the new generation of rulers, which could be used very easily for all the designers, constructors, controllers who are traveling all around the world, checking their garments, making up new, and sometimes in places where they don't know what kind of tools they're coming to. So this made me say to Rhona, okay, Rhona, what's the price? If the price is right, send me 200, 300 pieces. And an entire other story came up. So we started our long journey. And finally now, after thousands of hours of work and phone speeches across the sea, we have not only created the only collapsible ruler in the world, also we have tied a warm friendship, and that is really worth a lot for me too. We'll now go into the market, and I'm sure that everybody will take very well the ruler to them because it's a fantastic tool. And when Knud Erik from Danish Textile Institute say that they played a little part, it's not true. Because when we stuck with the materials that was not strong enough, with the hints that was a little bit difficult to create, they were the ones who gave us the solutions. And for that, we are very grateful. So it was not a little part, it was actually a little part, but a great part. So I will wish you all a very nice day. And from here, we are following it all, and I am and my company very excited to go into the market in Europe with the Udazzle fashion ruler. Hi, Rhona. Hi, everybody.
Okay, thanks, Aura.
Over the ocean in the cold north of Denmark.
Right, great. So moving on from our phase 2 program, we are currently executing another program, and that program is the IAS Scale-up Programme. Now, although the IAS program was expected to end in 2021, just to give you a bit of context, Aura would have shared that it began in 2018. A decision was taken to extend the project by a year. And this was given the fact that many of these micro and small businesses in Trinidad were so impacted negatively by the pandemic, and also because there was a surplus in resources available in the project. So the Scale-up Program really targets and seeks to to assist entrepreneurs who have a high potential for scaling up their current operations. So not for persons who are now starting up their businesses, it's really for persons who have been operating for a while. They are seeing, a high demand for their goods or services, and they have to scale up because that is the only way they are able to meet this demand. So those are the persons we are really looking to attract into our IAS Scale-up Program. And scale-up really refers to simply just enhancing or increasing your business performance, either by increasing your capacity or becoming more efficient. And you can do that in a number of ways. You can improve your production facilities, you could add equipment, which will help you to access new markets, and so on. Now, once you scale and you improve efficiency or you increase capacity, we expect, of course, that this will be manifested in a way that we see increased revenue, increased sales, maybe increased profit margins. Maybe you are able to employ new persons or have better customer satisfaction. Those are some of the things we would expect once you enter into that scale-up activity. Next slide, please. So what are the requirements to be considered for the scale-up program? Well, firstly, you have to, of course, own a business and operate a business. You must be a national of Trinidad and Tobago. You must be willing to share information. You must be open. Of course, all the information that you share with us is confidential and remains confidential, and that is governed by the NDA contract that you sign. You must be willing to develop a plan of activities, which when you implement those activities will result in a scale up. There is some expectation that you also cover some of the expenses that goes into your scale up business. And the time frame that we are expecting the scale up to be done must be immediate to short term, especially given that our program, well, this scale up program comes to an end in October. Now, next slide, please. The process to be considered, it's very, very simple. You just submit an application via our website or just give us a call. Now, once we receive your interest, we will contact you and do a short pre-screening over the phone. Then we will send you a Google link, and that Google link will have a number of questions for you to fill out. Questions about your business, questions about yourself, questions about your scaling goals and what sort of resources and equipment and structure that you need to have to be able to scale up. Now, after you submit it, it will be reviewed and presented to a panel or a committee. And that committee reviews each selection and makes a decision in terms of whether or not you're a good fit for this program. And if you are, you will be informed that you've been selected. Now, there's many benefits of the IAS program, and it offers especially small businesses the chance to really develop and grow themselves, be able to earn more through, more sales and so on. And there is also a possibility of getting some finance to do so. If you are interested and you want more information, we ask you that you visit our website, www.cdcariri.com/IAS, or you can call us 299-0209 at the extensions 2657, 2661, 2201, or email us at ias@cariri.com. Next slide, please. Okay, so that brings me to the end of my presentation. I hope you have found the information that we all presented to be very beneficial and useful to you. We encourage you to visit our website, go like or follow us on social media. And if you have any questions, or if you are interested in any one of the programs presented today, please feel free to contact us at the information on the screen. So you can probably take a screenshot so that you have that information at hand. So thank you so much, and thank you to Tamara for moderating.
Okay, great, Sadira. And indeed, that was a lot of information there. So thank you very much for reiterating the contact numbers and the email address so persons can definitely get in touch with you guys at Cariri. At this point in time, we would have our business advisor here at NEDCO, Mr. Kriel Toby, who will take you through NEDCO's offerings and our services. And when Kriel has completed his part of the presentation, we will then go into the question and answer segment. So Kriel, you can go ahead.
Good afternoon, Tamara. Good afternoon, everyone that came in here today. I want to thank the Cariri team for the enlightenment of all the things that interesting things that Cariri is doing with regards to innovation. So today we're going to discuss how do you make that innovative product a reality? How do you turn that into a business? So we at NEDCO, we have been in the entrepreneurial landscape for approximately 20 years, and we are here to support, to help the businesses be sustained and to make sure the businesses are thriving. And today we want to talk about stepping up and how can you finance your dreams through accessing the services at NEDCO, right? All right, so for those who have any idea of NEDCO, we are here to help those entrepreneurs who would not normally be able to meet the traditional lending agencies criteria. So we help support those entrepreneurs in overcoming those challenges that they may have in accessing funding, right? And we do that via a suite of different services that we offer through the advisory and the training to support the entrepreneur in accessing financing. As we go on, you'll hear more about how that can happen. All right, so we know that the entrepreneurs have a lot on their plate. You've now been able to develop the product, and now you're ready to take the product to market. But as an entrepreneur, you're responsible for all aspects of the business. And as they say, you're the chief cook and bottle washer. So you have to be responsible for how do you manage your sales and production equation? How do you manage that production process to ensure that you can meet your sales targets and stuff like that? How do you market and package your product to reach a particular target market? And then what strategies do you implement to be able to make those things happen? And then you have to determine how do you satisfy and manage your customer service relationships? What customer service relationship management system should you put in place to be able to meet your customer and attain your customer and retain your customer? And then finally, you have to determine how do you now manage your resources, human resources, and to be able to meet the objectives that the business has set for itself. And then finally, we want to know how do you finance those objectives? And there's a host of ways you could access financing, as I will take in the upcoming slide. All right, so normally, as a business, there are three major areas that you would normally want to seek financing for. In this particular instance, you would have spoken a lot about developing your product, so you would have want financing to develop that product, right? Once you have that product in train, and you would want to find out to ensure that you have the working capital required to meet your basic needs, the basic needs of the business, to be able to finance your operations, to stay in business and to expand. And then you will need to finance the equipment that is required to produce the products that you want to take to market. And how do you finance those things? What are the areas or the avenues available for you for financing? Right, so these are different, as you see in this pyramid here, these are different avenues or ways you can access financing. You can use equity, institutional equity at the top, but those are harder ways to access the financing, right? And individual equity, which would be your savings that you would have to put out to be able to finance your operation. And at the top, at the middle there, you will see the grants, which again, those are harder ways to raise because there are so many stipulations and requirements to access some of the grant funding. And then you go to the bank lines and loans that you would need to access. Again, those things get a little harder, but it's a lot easier than accessing the institutional equity, which should have a lot more legal stipulations that you would need to meet. But in the sense of the project that we're discussing here in terms of Cariri's innovative funding, the best source of funding here would be like the crowdfunding and the Quicken loans that would be based on your particular credit situation to finance that product development. All right. Now, in terms of the business that you are now coming to NEDCO for finance, we would take a look at the operations of the business. So what we look at, pay particular attention to, is look at the support network around the business. What are the supporting systems that the business has to make sure the business operations are successful? And we take an assessment of the physical and the operational infrastructure that the business has in place to be able to achieve the goals and objectives. And then we look at the financial needs of the business and whether the entrepreneur has the necessary financing to be able to realize, at least a form of the financing to be able to realize his goals and objectives. Right? So we want to know that he has the financing minimum collateral requirements to be able to leverage to finance his operations. And does the entrepreneur then also have an understanding of his costs, of his expenses to be able to operate the business successfully? And then we want to know, is the person who's in operation, are they competent in terms of managing the resources, managing the marketing strategies, managing the human resources and his financial resources to be able to achieve the objective. And then we want to know, have you been able to assess your marketing environment? And do you have a marketing plan that caters to your marketing environment? So is your business or is your particular product that you want to enter into the market, do you have low or high barriers to entry? So if you have low barriers to entry, it means that you have a lot of competition. Therefore, you have to have a strategy to differentiate yourself from in the market. What is the strategy? We want to take an assessment of that. And if there are high barriers of entry, you'll have to have a lot of capital to be able to enter. So have you been able to, as an entrepreneur, put aside a nest egg to be able to, that can be used and leverage to get financing to enter the market and to be able to be successful? Hi, have a question? Hello? Hello? Okay. All right. So once once that preliminary analysis is done, we want to now access credit. And these are the 5 areas that in accessing the credit, these are 5 areas that we pay close attention to. Does the business that you have presented, have you presented a compelling argument that demonstrates that the business has the capacity to repay? Is there going to be a cash flow that will allow you to cover your expenses as well as the loan that you want to take? And what is the probability that you may default on the facility that you have asked for? So we look at market analysis, we look at the characterization of the business, the barriers to entry, as I mentioned before. We also will take a closer look at what segment of the market you are capturing, and so on and so forth. All right. And then finally, we look at the capital that you have. Have you been able, as an entrepreneur, been saving over time and have the capital to invest that will contribute toward that you can leverage to get more cash, right? And what have you invested so far in the business? Have you have your personal risk as part of the business? And therefore, because in lending, what they have found is that the greater investment that you have, what you have things that personally at stake, there's a greater motivation to make sure the business or the activity that you're engaging in is successful. And then I want you to pay attention to the collateral. And that is where we require additional forms of security that will guarantee the facility itself that you're asking for. Because even though you will have invested capital to have the business running, you also want to ensure that the loan facility that you're asking for is collateralized and there's some sort of security on the facility itself. The capital is to ensure that the business there's been enough investment in the business for the business to run and go forward. And then finally, you want to look at the conditions that exist in the marketplace. Are there conditions that would make this business a success? And has the entrepreneur analyzed the environment enough and taking necessary steps to ensure that the business is successful? And what to mention here as well, and this is where our other services come in to help assess those things and put systems in place to ensure that you are preparing for whatever potential conditions that present itself. And the fifth one, which is character. So therefore, as part of character, something's not here, but it is the entrepreneur or the person applying for the facility, have they demonstrated a general capacity to meet their obligations? And are they a person who will ensure they will do all it necessary to ensure that the facility is repaid? There's one other C that is not really here, but is almost implicit, which is credit rating. So most individuals who, when you're starting your own small business, your business itself will not have a rating, but you as an individual would have a credit history in some form or fashion. And generally, once you're applying for a loan as an entrepreneur, you want to make sure that your credit rating is of a good standing and a high standing and speaks to a person that has a high character to repay their obligations. All right? So part of what NEDCO is about ensuring that that small and micro enterprises in the entrepreneurial ecosystem are well supported. And to do that, we do, in terms of your loans, we do a pre-loan assessment, where again, we do a assessment of the conditions that exist, and we determine the person who is before us, the entrepreneur that is before us, is this individual ready to access credit financing? Because there are other forms of financing that you can access, as we have mentioned before. You have grant funding and you have angel investors, which is a different type of arrangement. But we assess whether the business and the person applying for the business is able to, for the business loan, is ready to make that kind of commitment. And then there's a post-loan assessment. So at NEDCO, we don't just give you the loan and turn away. We also continuously follow up with the entrepreneur to ensure that the loan or the business is being managed in a way that has allowed the entrepreneur to repay the facility, and not just repay the facility, but to be thriving, right? And this is where our other soft services come in, that where there might be blind spots of the entrepreneur, that those spots are taken care of, and that the shortcomings or the gaps are identified and addressed. And finally, we do a needs and impact, and that is a review of the client's ability, right, to manage and control the business in a growth stage, and it's also for the person to determine whether the entrepreneur is aware of his environment and is taking steps to ensure that he's able to capitalize on his environment and to mitigate against any risk that may present itself. All right, and at NEDCO, we pride ourselves in being a one-stop shop. And what does that mean? We offer an array of services, from development of your soft skills and your hard skills, and also loan funding. And as I mentioned before, we want to ensure that we take an assessment. We constantly assessing before the loan is taken, while the loan is being repaid, to ensure that the entrepreneur is able to leverage the loan that he has gotten from NEDCO to enhance his business and to grow and to thrive. Right? And then finally, we have the strategic partnerships such as this one, where we bring other agencies that are doing similar stuff, that we will be able to leverage our services towards enhancing the entrepreneurial landscape. All right. All right, so this is some of our basic loan requirements. This is 2 forms of ID, 2 passport size photos, proof of address, standard loan requirements, business registration certificate, which is a must. All businesses that apply for loans from NEDCO must be registered. If you're applying for a particular item or equipment in your business, we would need a quotation, and we would need bank statements, which means that the business should have a business bank account. This will prevent commingling of funds, where persons will be putting the funds of the business and their own personal funds together. Right? We would want to have historical financial statements, and BIR certificate, and lease agreements where necessary if the business rents a space, and if there are contracts that the business has or the entrepreneur has with other clients, we want to see some of those things. And you will see under the basic requirements, additional industry requirements. One such requirement, for depending on the type of business, for food businesses in particular, would be a Cariri certificate that indicates that the good is good for public consumption. And also in terms of food as well, we would want, if you have a physical space, we want an inspection certificate by the Ministry of Health. All right, those are just some of the specific industry requirements that we will need in the food industry. All right, so let's get to the lending aspect of NEDCO, which is we have a minimum 50% collateral requirement, and usually we will lend for, well, usually persons will come. Usually we would use collateral would be the equipment of the business, and we would ask for some cash collateral as well. But there also, persons also could pledge high value assets or assets that have a good resaleable value. All right. We also, in our loans, we also have our entrepreneurial development package, right? That offers soft support in the form of business advisory and training that will help the entrepreneur cover any gaps that he may have in his training or in his understanding or assessment of his environment. And also it offers any advice, it offers that sense of emotional support in moments when they may be doubting whether you can actually get some of these things done in the business, which as identified before in terms of the marketing, we help you with marketing plans. If you are, stuttering, the business is stuttering, and we could sit down and map up and chart a course forward. All right, so there you also see that our interest rate is 8% and our term is up to 60 months. All right. All right, so this is our line of financing. Our minimum amount of refinance is of $10,000, and the maximum our financing is $500,000. We usually finance up to $250,000 for first-time applicants and up to $500,000 for repeat applicants, for persons who would have repaid their loan well and their loan business is growing, they can access up to $500,000. And on that scale, you would see that there's a line that says collateral 50% and then an equity requirement. So if it's $10,000, there's no equity required, but it's a collateral requirement of 50%. And then for $50,000, a collateral requirement of 65% and an equity requirement of 10%. So what is this equity requirement? This equity requirement is basically an assessment of what the entrepreneur has already invested in the business. So we want to know that the entrepreneur has himself invested a minimum of 10% of his own funds in the business. And also, if he is seeking funding, the cash that he's seeking to borrow to fund operations in the business should be secured by an asset of good value that covers at least 65% of the value of the loan that they're seeking to procure from NEDCO. All right. All right. So you would come to NEDCO and you would apply for a loan. And we don't just stop in terms of our support, we don't stop there. We also have training, because being a part of the entrepreneurial landscape, we would have recognized that there are some skills that some persons, particularly creative persons, would have, but there are some skills that may be lacking. And in order to bridge that gap, we have a training programs that are specifically designed for entrepreneurs of different types and of different skill sets. We cater all our training sessions to different entrepreneurs who have different learning styles and learning abilities. And also our training programs are specifically designed based on feedback from entrepreneurs in areas that they would want to be trained in, right? And we try to keep our classes as intimate as possible as we possibly can, and as relevant as we possibly can to the entrepreneurial environment, right? And the primary objective of the classes is really to enhance the understanding of the entrepreneur of the key areas of his business, from marketing to financing to costing and pricing, and the different areas that generally, if not paid attention to in your operations, could find yourself in a sticky situation in terms of operating an effective business and making your business sustainable. As you would have seen in the pandemic, there are many persons who were not aware they were making any profit or not. And that's simply because some of them were not tracking their costs, they were not tracking their pricing, costing and pricing relationship, they were not tracking those things. And the training sessions can help with those things. I'm sorry, I saw Mr. Joe Johnson had his hand raised.
Yes, Mr. Johnson, actually. I have a question.
Sorry.
That's okay, that's no problem. It's hard to tell. I was asking a few questions in the chat. A lot of us asking questions. We're just curious as to when we're going to get any type of response to that. So I'm sorry for interrupting your presentation. But the question I wanted to ask regarding the training right now is, does NEDCO allow for the persons to register for these workshops and training, or do you have to take the loan to participate in this development training program that you're talking about?
All right, so I'll answer that question quickly, but I'll take all your questions at the end of the presentation, right? Yes, we do allow persons who is not specifically for persons who take loans. It is for all persons who need entrepreneurial support throughout the entrepreneurial ecosystem. Once you recognize that there's a gap in terms of your understanding of your operations, or there's an area that you feel you need to get more knowledge and information in, you can access training at NEDCO. All right?
Okay, thank you. And one last thing, does that come with a fee, or is that training free?
Yes, it comes with a fee, but we will discuss that at the end. Right?
Okay, all right, no problem. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. All right. And well, finally, the linchpin in all of this is the business advisory session. What we have found is that training, yes, entrepreneurs can get the training, and yes, that will bridge some of the gap. But as we all will realize, that entrepreneurship is an emotional journey. It's a journey that once embarked upon, it changes you, because you have to learn to be resilient. You have to learn to be able to take not so good things or challenges and turn them into something that will be able to benefit the business. All right, so in these sessions, we kind of go through the current state of the business. We kind of determine what is the vision that the entrepreneur would have. And from that, we devise practical support that will help guide the entrepreneur in developing a business that is both sustainable, profitable, and will thrive and be in existence in the future. Right? So, and that is oftentimes we do that service before the loan, and for persons who not necessarily have loans with us, and also after the loan, because sometimes persons would access funding from us, and they probably sometimes they reach a point where they are encountering issues that they can't solve for themselves. So I often like to refer to business advisory as a sort of board meeting where you kind of access persons who have experts in different areas, and we kind of help you find strategic solutions to your problem. All right. Well, I want to thank you very much for your attention, for your time, and for your questions that I'm aware that is in the chat. And these are some of our contact. These are ways to contact us, right? The number is 868-821-5800. You can email us at training@nedco.gov.tt, and our email is nedco@ttfunding.com. And these are our listing of our 5 branches: North, East, and Tobago, South, and Central. And these are the different addresses that we have there. And thank you so much for listening. And we look forward to hearing your wonderful questions and answering them, and trying to bring you that information so that you can really have thriving businesses and start along your entrepreneurial journey. I'll now pass you back to Tamara, and she will take us to the question session.
Thank you very much, Kriel, for taking us through that presentation. I want to apologize firstly for going over time a little bit, but that would have occurred as some of the speakers would have elaborated on their presentations. So we will now go into the question and answer segment at this point in time. We'll go through very quickly so you all can get your questions answered. We have a question from Peggy Lynch, who is asking, how do these requirements differ from the bank's requirements, especially for the entrepreneur who does not have a ready stash of funds for running and scaling up? And that question would go to Kriel. Kriel, you can put on your mic and answer Peggy's question, please.
All right, so in terms of the banking, our procedure, we will also hold equipment, as mentioned, that you have in your business as collateral. And once it has a good resaleable value, we will be willing to use that, some of those assets as collateral for the business. Right, which is different sometimes to the banking sector may ask for cash collateral in addition to the assets of your business. I don't know if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. And a lot of persons were asking if they will get the presentation. Everyone who is here present today will get a recording for your benefit. Okay. So there's also a question for Cariri. How do you propose conducting market research, as you indicated, without capital? Are there any recommended sample sizes MSC should start with? And anyone from Cariri can take that question. Cariri.
Hi, Tamara. So I'll take it to Sadira. So I believe the question was whether on the cost of market research and how do we propose that they conduct market research. So in our program, in the core program, we assist persons with the market research aspect of the program, and they go about meeting actual persons and having them samples. So we actually, because of the pandemic, it has been a challenge to actually reach persons face to face, especially during the lockdown periods. But the cost would be minimal. I mean, you just have to have samples prepared on hand, and we provide templates and guidance in terms of the number of sample size and so on. So that information is available if you wish to conduct market research. It does form part of the core program in the IAS program. So we do invite you to go onto our website if you have your ideas submitted via our online submission form, and you can learn more about the market research aspect of that program.
Okay, so Sadira, as you were here, someone is also asking, when and where is the next free ideation session? Karen, you have indicated that it's free at this point in time, and I think they want to know when and where.
Yes, that is correct, Mara. It is free. We don't have any set dates or locations for the next ideation session just yet, but we do encourage persons to keep abreast of our social media postings. So generally, just like this session would have been promoted through social media, whenever we have free ideation sessions, it is promoted through our social media as well. So we encourage you to keep following us, and hopefully there will be one coming up soon. During the pandemic, most of our ideation sessions would have been virtual. Prior to the pandemic, they were in-person sessions. So not sure what the new session would look like, but keep following us on social media for more information. And when there is a next session, you will be informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sadira. And we would no longer keep you here. So we would want to wrap up the webinar at this point in time. All right. I'm just looking because we don't want to leave anybody hanging with regard to their question. So what I will say is to you guys, please reach out to Cariri at IAS@Cariri or 299-0209 or 0210. And any questions that you have for Karen, Sadira, or they will be able to answer you once you contact them, as well as reach out to us at NEDCO at training@nedco.gov.tt or call us at 821-5800. So anything that you need to find out about with regards to Cariri or NEDCO, you can please utilize these contact numbers and email addresses. I'm going to put NEDCO's own in the chat right now, so you feel free to reach out to us accordingly. Additionally, we want to wish everyone a safe afternoon and thank you very much for attending our webinar today. So bye for now. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.